So once upon a time, there was a king, and he had an only son whom he adored. But the prince, who was a young man, was always sad. He was always depressed. He would just stare out the window and sigh. And the king said, "My son, why are you sad? What on earth do you lack?" And the boy said, I don't know, Father. I don't understand it myself. And he would just look out the window and sigh. His father said, "Well, is there some girl you fancy? I mean, if there is, I can make sure that you can marry her, no matter whether she's the poorest woman in the kingdom or the daughter of the richest emperor." And the boy says, "No, I'm not in love, Father. I'm just terribly, terribly sad." So the king calls together all of his wise men, all of his philosophers and physicians and alchemists. He shows them the prince, and he asks them to find a cure. So they withdraw to confer. They come back together to the king, and they say, "We're unanimous, Your Majesty. Only one thing can save your son. You must find a man who is completely and thoroughly and simply happy, and you must exchange your son's shirt for his." So the king immediately sends out messengers to the four corners of the world to find a happy man. And before long, they bring to him a priest. The king says to the priest, "Are you happy?" The priest says, "Very happy indeed, Your Majesty." And the king says, "Well, how'd you like to be my bishop?" And the priest says, "Oh, thank you very much, Your Majesty." The king says, "Get out. I want somebody who's happy with the way he is, not somebody who's looking to better his position." So they lead the priest away. Then they bring the king news of a king in a neighboring kingdom not too far away who is reported to be the happiest king in existence. He had a wife who was as good as she was beautiful. He had many children. He had conquered all of his enemies, and his kingdom was at peace. His people were prosperous and virtuous and loved their king. So he sent ambassadors to this king to ask him for his shirt. The ambassadors arrived, and the king received them in a friendly manner. And he said, "It is true that I have every good thing that a king could possibly want. But I'm only too aware of the fact that one day I'm going to die and have to leave it all behind. In fact, I can scarcely sleep at night for fear of this looming reality of my own death." So on the whole, the ambassadors thought it better not to return with this man's shirt to the king. So the poor king is beside himself. His son is taken to bed. He's dying. To distract his worried mind, the king goes hunting. And in the course of the hunt, he wounds a rabbit, which scampers away on 3 legs. The king dismounts to chase. And in the chase, he leaves the hunting party far behind. He's tracking the trail of blood through the forest when he stops dead in his tracks because he hears singing. He says to himself, "Anybody who can sing like that must be happy indeed." So he follows the voice to a clearing, and in the clearing is a vineyard. And in the vineyard is a young man pruning the vines with a pair of shearers. And the young man sees the king and says, "Good morning, Your Majesty. It's early to be out hunting. Beautiful day, isn't it?" The king walks forward. He says, "Tell me, are you happy?" He says, "Oh, yes, I'm very happy, Your Majesty. Thanks so much." And the king says, "Well, how'd you like to come to the capital and be one of my counselors? I'm sure that you could have a good career." And the man says, "No, I'm happy the way I am. I have everything that I want right here. I don't want to change anything about my life." And the king says, "You're just the man I need to see. You are the only one who can save my son." And the man says, "Well, I'll be happy to help however I can, Majesty. What do you need?" The king says, Wait just a minute. Stay right here. Don't go anywhere." And he runs off to go retrieve the hunting party. So he comes bounding back through the woods a few minutes later with all of his dozen or so courtiers behind him in the hunting party, just bubbling over with joy. "My son is saved," he says. "I've found the happy man." The young man is still standing there with the pruners in his hand by the vineyard. And he says, "Well, in what way can I serve you, Your Majesty?" The king says, "Well, I need, come here." He loses his patience. He grabs the young man by the shoulders, and with fumbling fingers, he begins unbuttoning the man's jacket. And then he stops, and his hands fall to his sides, for the happy man wore no shirt. Yeah. The Twilight Zone ending for that story. Glad you liked it.